Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the French and Indian War, which took place from 1756 to 1763. Sometimes you'll hear this war called a few other things like the Great War for Empire, the Great War for Conquest, or even the 7 Years' War, which is a little strange because the war was actually 9 years long. But let's move along here. So objectives today, you're going to be able to describe the events that led to the French and Indian War. You're going to be able to identify the key players or the people who involved themselves in the French and Indian War. And you're going to be able to evaluate the effects of the French and Indian War as well. So our essential questions for today: why did the French and Indian War begin? And how was 1763 a turning point in British colony relationships? And our standards for today are 8.4.12d. So the first question we want to look at is, was 1763 a turning point in British colonial relationships? Well, looking here, we can actually see a map of North America in 1750. And from this map, we can see that the British, the French, the Spanish, and even the Russians had claims or land in North America, which would be colonies. Now try to remember what this looks like here. So far, the French seem to be really dominating a lot of North America. But by 1763, that will change. So the first clash we're going to see for the French and Indian War is going to begin in 1754 in an area we call the Ohio Valley. And the two sides of this war are going to be the British, who are going to be located at Fort Necessity under the leadership of George Washington. Yes, that George Washington. And they are going to be fighting against the French, who will be located at Fort Duquesne, and will also team up with Delaware and Shawnee Indians. This is why we call it the French and Indian War, because the French and the Indians teamed up against the British and the colonists. So 1754, once war breaks out, Benjamin Franklin is going to try to attempt to get all of the colonies to work together to help fight this war. And we call this the Albany Plan of Union. And so what happened was representatives from New England, New York, Maryland, and Pennsylvania all came together to form the Albany Congress. And they actually came up with this image you see here, a snake cut up saying join or die. And the main purpose here, ladies and gentlemen, was basically to show that if we're all cut up, if we're all apart, then the snake is not going to work as it should. But if we all join together and join together each part of the snake, then we will be able to slither around, slither through, and hopefully get out of harm's way. That's the idea there. So notice that each one of the segments actually has a letter referring to what colony or what area Benjamin Franklin was referring to. Now, sadly, even though this was the first attempt of colonists to work together, it ultimately failed because one Indian tribe, the Iroquois, broke off relations with Britain and threatened to trade with the French, which is going to make many colonists and many of these territories very scared of the real threat of Indian attacks. So they're going to decide, maybe we shouldn't really join up yet, maybe we shouldn't involve ourselves together, and instead just let the British fight this war for us. And that's exactly what's going to happen. So let's talk about British and American colonial tensions. So for the colonials, their methods of fighting: Indian-style guerrilla tactics, meaning hit and run, hiding in the brushes, not really straight in your face type of fighting. They're basically going to organize themselves as militias served under captains. They're really not going to have any military discipline. They're not going to have any protocols observed. It's kind of a free-for-all. Basically, they don't have any money to finance this war or to finance their fighting, and they are going to resist at all costs raising taxes in order to finance it. So these are really going to be your casual, non-professional fighters. And like we said, there's not going to be large numbers of colonials fighting in this war because the British will be here and will be available to fight for us. So the British are going to actually fight in a little bit of a different way, even though they're still fighting on the same side as the colonists. They're going to be marching in formation using the type of bayonet charge where you can actually see everybody lined up okay, ready to go and moving forward all at once. So there's really no surprise element there. So many British officers actually wanted to take charge of the colonists and their militias, but many colonists said, no, this is our militia, this is our captain, this is who we follow. So we're already going to see some headbutting going on here. Now, as far as finances go, the British are actually going to look to the colonists to pay them and to pay for this defense system. But like we said, colonists are going to kind of push back and resist. So the demeanor for the British soldiers, they're really going to be kind of their prima donna British officers. They'll have servants, they'll have tea at high noon, and it's really not going to be the type of fighting that the colonists or the French and the Indians are going to wage during this war. So the British are going to be a little bit at a disadvantage there with that. So one turning point in the war will come in 1757 when William Pitt, an Englishman, becomes foreign minister to the colonies. So basically that means any issues that the colonists have, he's the one to deal with them, to make all the decisions. So he did understand the colonial concerns about this war, and he's going to offer them a compromise. He's going to say, well, if you are loyal to the British and you cooperate with them militarily, meaning you listen to our generals, you listen to our captains, you organize yourself the ways that we do, then Britain will reimburse you for your costs of this war. So basically what he's saying is, there you go, colonists, you don't have to pay anything, and we will still defend you as long as you are loyal to us and you listen to us. And the last part of this is that the current minister, Lord London, would actually be removed. And the importance of that was Lord London was actually very corrupt, and he was not a good guy, and he was often trying to oppress the colonists. So the results of this is by 1758, a lot of colonists, their morale is going to improve, which is going to help them in fighting the war. So in 1758, we're going to see the tide turn again for England. There's going to be a huge battle in Quebec, which is located in present-day Canada, that's going to allow the British soldiers to march on to Montreal, where they will have their first major defeat of the French. So really we can say that 1758 is going to be the starting downfall for the French. And by 1763, we see that the land looks very different than it did before. Notice the French really don't have any claims at all in North America, besides that very small little area in the Caribbean. And the primary, or the dominant, European country in North America in 1763 will be the British, followed by the Spanish. So the big thing I want you guys to take away here, by 1763, the war is over between the French Indians and the British and the colonists. And the big result here, guys, the British have won. Even though they've won, though, this is simply going to be the start of even more issues that they have to face. And that's what we'll be talking about next time. So at this point, go ahead, answer the questions below, and then you can move on to our next topic.